I do not know how it is possible. I myself do not know how it is possible to survive all of that. Let alone a fall from 100 meters. It's impossible to survive that height.
It's January 26, 1972. 22-year-old stewardess Vesna Vulović is handing out snacks to passengers on a Yugoslav Airlines flight to Belgrade. They're high above the clouds, cruising at a breezy altitude of 33,000 feet. Just another run-of-the-mill flight, until suddenly, her life literally gets flipped upside down. An explosion rips the plane into 3 pieces. Everyone gets sucked out into the open air, except for Vesna. She's pinned inside the tail end of the plane by her food cart, an object that ultimately would save her life, and plummets toward the snowy hills below. And then, she's out cold. Vesna would become the Guinness World Record holder for the longest fall ever survived by a human being without a parachute. But she's not the only one who's cheated death from a great height. We'll unpack her insane story of survival and 2 others that may make you reconsider flying and skydiving. Yeah, I will not be doing that, ever. I don't care how much you guys pay me. What caused Vesna's plane to explode in the first place? How did a skydiver who fell 4,000 feet uncover it was an attempted murder plot? And what saved the life of a World War II US airman who was thrown from his aircraft at 20,000 feet? We had the pleasure of welcoming back aviation accident investigator, pilot, and certified flight instructor Melanie A. Fulsick-Barolero to the show. We spoke with her to get her perspective on Vesna's incredible survival story, among others.
When an aircraft does break up even further, we have in-flight breakup, and that really does send parts of the aircraft everywhere.
This is the incredible story of Vesna Vulović and others like her who defied gravity and walked away alive. For Vesna, becoming a flight attendant is a dream come true, an opportunity to travel to different parts of the world and get paid for it. It's also an opportunity for her to visit London, England, and see her favorite band, the Beatles. I mean, can you blame her? The Beatles are amazing. But a medical issue almost keeps her from landing the job in the first place. With chronically low blood pressure, she doesn't qualify on her medical exam to become a flight attendant, but she cheats the system. Prior to the exam, she drinks a ton of coffee and passes the test. Wow, it's that easy, huh? Wonder if it works for drug tests. Little does she know that her medical condition will end up saving her life. She's 8 months into her job for Yugoslav Airlines when she's scheduled for flight 367 from Stockholm to Belgrade. But the crazy part of this story? She isn't even supposed to be on this flight.
Instead of my colleague, Vesna Nikolic, they signed me Vesna Vulović by mistake. I was told I was taken off the flight I was meant to work.
The plane lands at a layover in Copenhagen around 2:30 p.m. Before Vesna and her colleagues board, they watch the passengers and crew deplane. One passenger in particular stands out to them. A man who seems very annoyed as he gets off.
And then it seemed to me that one passenger did not go with the other passengers to the exit, but that he went to the other side, there to the end of the tube. And that really stuck in my memory, and I said that.
Turns out, this is the same man Vesna believes is responsible for planting an explosive suitcase on the plane she is moments away from boarding.
I remember the women who entered the cabin with children and the cleaners who had been tidying up before that.
At 3:15 p.m., the plane takes off. It reaches a cruising altitude of 33,330 feet as it flies over the Czech village of Srpska Kamenica. Things are going as expected.
I remember another hour of flight. Then my life was interrupted.
At 4:01 p.m., an explosion detonates in the baggage compartment below. The plane separates into 3 parts, causing the cabin to rapidly depressurize. Within seconds, debris, luggage, and 27 passengers and crew members are sucked out of the plane and scattered across the Czech mountains.
When an aircraft does break up even further, we have in-flight breakup, and that really does send parts of the aircraft everywhere. So depending on the speed, the force, the velocity, and the trajectory of the aircraft, the heavier parts tend to move forward. So we will see parts ahead of where the explosion happened, travel for miles, and lighter pieces can actually float down in a leaf effect.
But Vesna remains trapped inside a broken part of the fuselage. pinned by a food trolley, while it plummets to the ground.
There was probably a spiral effect, as there usually is, given the wind moving through the air in general. So in this case, I think it probably tail ended up down and she was probably sitting in it like a cup.
She passes out almost immediately due to her low blood pressure. But this is actually a blessing in disguise.
She had such wonderful luck that this particular piece of the plane was falling down in a special way. It was spinning, as the Czechs who saw it on the spot told me. They watched it fall.
The fuselage of the plane slams into the dense snow-covered trees at just the right angle. A hilly slope cushions the fall.
You can't force your blood pressure to go in one way or another, so let's take that off the table. You're not going to be popping a magic pill that does that. However, you have the ability to go limp. If you tense up, you have a higher chance of ripping muscle, breaking bones, and injuring yourself because your body tenses the muscles.
So, I guess what's the most ideal situation to fall into if you're falling out of the sky?
Anything frangible that could break and absorb the energy. We want them to hit tree branches all the way down. Now, it's not going to protect you from broken bones and internal injuries, but your survival is higher at that point, especially like her, if she was wrapped in any kind of part from the aircraft like fuselage, tail, baggage car.
Vesna's rudely awakened by the impact. The crash leaves her with a fractured skull and pelvis, 3 broken ribs, 2 broken legs, and spinal damage, leaving her paralyzed from the waist down. Vesna screams out in pain. Thankfully, a nearby villager is in earshot. Bruno Honke, who was a former World War II field medic, runs over to help. Talk about having the right guy in the right place at the right time. Honke rushes into action, dressing Vesna's wounds and keeping her breathing until additional help arrives. Now let's be real, guys. Surviving a crash like this is 1 in a million, but there are precautions you can take to improve your chances. If you ever find yourself in a plane going down, your instinct to jump out could kill you. You're better off getting into the brace position and hoping for the best. Unless, of course, you happen to be wearing a parachute, but even those can fail. You'll see what I mean. The most important thing you can do is protect your head, even if it means the rest of your body will take the majority of the damage.
We always say don't take that last breath before you impact the ground. You want to take it and then release it.
For Vesna, her injuries are so severe that even after getting to the hospital, doctors aren't sure how long she can last. Before we talk about Vesna's recovery, if you're enjoying the video so far, we'd really appreciate a like or comment. And if you want more stories like Vesna's, be sure to subscribe as well. We've got plenty more on the way.
I only learned that this year from my doctor who saved me. I was dead for 4 hours, clinically dead, and woke up on St. Sava's Day. It is a miracle you survived.
Vesna's in a coma for several weeks. When she comes to, she has no memory of what happened during the fall due to amnesia.
And I don't remember. I woke up every day asking where I was and what was happening.
After surviving the impossible, Vesna defies all odds once again when, 10 months later, she begins to walk. Because she has no memory of what happened, Vesna is actually eager to start working as a flight attendant once she's fully healed. But the airline she works for doesn't think it's such a good idea. As Vesna's story continues to gain media attention, Yugoslav Airlines doesn't like the publicity it's getting because of the accident, so they give her a desk job instead. But the media isn't just interested in Vesna. The investigation uncovers that a briefcase carrying explosives was planted in the baggage compartment, and the manhunt for who planted it begins.
You said that you noticed a man at the airport who did not board, who was late, and who left his suitcases behind.
The day after the crash, a Swedish newspaper reports a Croatian nationalist calls in claiming responsibility. Authorities also suspect a Croatian terrorist group known as the Ustaše is responsible, although no one is ever formally charged. And nowadays, thankfully, airport security is much more strict, so a briefcase bomb is the least of your concerns.
And passengers have a say too. If you look out the window while your aircraft is getting loaded with cargo and there's something strange and you don't like it, you are more than welcome to bring that up as a concern, and they will bring out the right people, whether it's customs, airport security, to look into that package more.
In 1985, Vesna is awarded the Guinness World Record for the highest fall survived without a parachute. And she's presented with the award by one of the 4 men responsible for her becoming a flight attendant in the first place, Paul McCartney of the Beatles. Talk about a full circle moment. You know, come to think of it, they should have renamed the song Vesna in the Sky with Diamonds. Despite the happy ending, Vesna suffered from survivor's guilt. While she didn't become a flight attendant again, and frankly I don't blame her, she did use her fame to fight for democracy as a political activist.
Seriously, I remained the same Vesna I was. My life just went in a different direction.
Vesna passed away on December 23, 2016 at 66 years old. But the Guinness World Record will likely remain hers forever. At least, I hope so. That being said, even falling 4,000 feet without a parachute deploying is impressive. But it wasn't what was supposed to happen to our next survivor. It's April 5th, 2015. Victoria Cilliers steps onto a plane she intends to jump out of at 4,000 feet, while her husband Emil and their 2 young children watch. As a skydiving instructor for over a decade, she's done these jumps thousands of times. And when her husband gifts her the experience to have a solo jump after having their second child, she doesn't think twice. But when she jumps and pulls her main parachute, it doesn't fully open. For Victoria, it's a simple malfunction, and given her experience and training, she keeps calm and pulls her backup chute.
All parachutes are required, short of the big round ones that military uses, but they're required to have 2. Your main chute, which is usually your big canopy, and then your reserve backup. Your reserve backup is always connected to a device, but if the connectors that connect the bridles to your harness are disconnected or sabotaged, there's nothing holding you to that parachute.
But the minute I deployed the reserve, I knew instantly there was something very wrong. Because it should just be there and everything slows down and it's calm, but it wasn't. I was spinning.
Neither parachute opens, and they become tangled in the wind, and the field below gets closer and closer. She's falling at 60 miles per hour towards the ground.
So you can steer your body by just tilting certain parts of your elbows, your hips, your feet, but mainly you want to be stomach down as you're approaching the earth, and that's how you can start steering yourself, is by creating that motion and then using your arms to steer. And if there's canopies versus a field, I would try to still streamline my body and fly.
When people were watching it on the ground, they actually arrived to you with a body bag because no one thought you were going to survive this.
Luckily, the freshly plowed field she crashes into somewhat cushions her fall. Victoria also credits the way she was spinning, which slowed her descent.
Then she had an external drag factor, which was that basically the strangled canopy up top. So as it's struggling and it's fluttering, it's still catching some air, slowing her down.
If you're lucky enough to survive the initial fall from the sky, you're guaranteed to have some injuries. And to no surprise, that was the case for Victoria.
I broke my pelvis in lots of places, several spinal fractures, most of my ribs on one side, bleeding in my lung.
Now, parachute malfunctions happen, but for both her main and reserve chutes not to work seems suspicious. The police open an investigation, and it doesn't take long for them to realize this is no accident. Investigators discover that some of the lines in Victoria's main parachute had been knotted, and 2 crucial connectors were removed from the reserve chute. Without them, one side of the canopy wasn't properly attached. Then, they receive a tip from one of Victoria's friends.
She was not happy with their relationship, that it was not as perfect as the outside world would perceive it to be, and that if he had been anywhere near the parachute center when this happened, she would suspect that he had something to do with it.
Their suspicion is confirmed when they learn that her husband Emil had been seen at the parachute center, taking Victoria's skydiving gear into the bathroom.
But I couldn't understand why Emil would do that, why my husband would try and kill me.
During a police interview with Emil, it's discovered that he's having affairs and is heavily in debt. His plan was to kill Victoria, get the life insurance policy, and start fresh. When investigators tell Victoria about Emil's affairs, she's heartbroken and lets out a guttural scream.
I was just so angry. Let down, betrayed. They felt like he had almost like a separate identity. One that he had with his girlfriend. He had a different phone, he had a different computer, a whole different life.
But the crazy part is, this wasn't the first time he tried to kill her. Victoria tells them about a gas leak they had a week before her fall. She had texted her husband about a strong smell of gas in the kitchen.
And his reply is, "Have you tried putting a stove on?" To which he says, no, why would I do that? Too dangerous. But that's his initial reply back to her.
The investigation reveals that a gas valve in the kitchen had been loosened. Their kids were also in the house upstairs. So had Victoria turned the stove on, all three of them likely would have been killed in an explosion. Talk about father of the year. In 2018, Emil is convicted on 2 counts of attempted murder and receives a life sentence with a minimum of 18 years served before he is eligible for parole. Victoria divorces Emil, remarries in 2024, and makes sure her last memory of skydiving isn't the one that almost killed her.
I didn't want to end my skydiving career on that skydive, so that's why I wanted to do one last jump.
Honestly, I respect it, but I'd still never go skydiving. Now, some people take to the air as a hobby, while others do it in the line of duty, but no soldier can prepare themselves to fall 20,000 feet out of the sky without a parachute. On January 3rd, 1943, 24-year-old American Alan Magee steps into the gunner's position of a B-17 bomber. The tight space barely leaves enough room for Magee, so he has to leave his emergency parachute in the plane's fuselage. It's World War II, and Magee, along with his team, is on a mission to destroy a German-operated submarine port in France. As the fleet reaches the town of Saint-Nazaire, the Germans launch a heavy counterattack. Magee's ball turret window explodes as a bullet rips through. He's hit by shrapnel and realizes he's in a flaming death trap. He quickly opens the hatch, climbs up, and gets his parachute. But his chute is badly damaged and no longer usable. The plane continues to take bullets until the right wing is blown off, causing it to spiral out of control. The impact also knocks Magee unconscious. Once he comes to, he's falling 22,000 feet out of the sky, with no parachute and the ground beneath him drawing closer and closer. But what happens next is nothing short of a miracle. Magee smashes into the glass roof of the Saint-Nazaire railroad station and lands on a steel girder that is also held up with strong metal cables. Unbelievably, it absorbs the impact almost like a trampoline, and he's knocked out cold once again.
That was that frangible object. It took the blunt of the energy, dissipated it, and then he continued to fall down through rafters. So his luck was that he didn't just impact the ground.
At first, the German soldiers think he's dead and go to retrieve his corpse. They then realize he's alive, but seriously wounded. Magee wakes up in a hospital bed to a German doctor who says, "We are enemies, but I am a doctor first, and I will do my best to save your arm." And that's exactly what the doctor does, practically stitching his severed arm back onto his body. Despite everything he went through, Alan Magee lived another 61 years, passing at the age of 84 in 2003. Hopefully you never find yourself in a situation similar to any of these stories. But if you are free falling without a parachute, here's what you should do.
You have to fall from any distance. The 5-point landing technique is taught in the American free fall. You're going to make your body in a certain position so all the weight doesn't go into your legs and your ankles, because that'll snap it, right? So when you go and you're going to position yourself to kind of land, your knees and your feet should be together, bent knees, and it's 5 points of landing. You're almost going to roll yourself on the side. Can't say they're not going to break a bone, but they survived.
Statistically speaking, a plane ride is safer than driving to work. But tell that to Julianne Koepka, who fell 10,000 feet from a plane flying over the Amazon and survived. But her story doesn't end there. Waking up alive in the Amazon was just the beginning. Check out our video on her unbelievable survival story to learn more. We'll see you next time in another episode of How to Survive.